It's 1989, and a show about lifeguards on a sunny California beach is about to become one of the most watched television programs in history. For over a decade, Baywatch filled living rooms with slow-motion runs, rescue drama, and some of the most recognizable faces on the planet. But look a little closer, and you'll find a world full of hidden moments, surprising facts, and behind-the-scenes secrets hiding in plain sight. So, today, we're uncovering 25 small details you missed in Baywatch.
Craig, I'm in trouble. I'm going down. Craig, can you hear me?
Detail 25. The show was canceled after its first season. Most people assume Baywatch was an instant hit. It wasn't. NBC aired the first season in 1989 and then canceled it due to poor ratings and high production costs. The network had invested expecting a solid primetime audience, but the format, sun, surf, and rescue drama, didn't immediately translate into the viewership NBC needed to justify the expense. The show only survived because David Hasselhoff and producer David Franzoni believed in it so strongly that they personally helped finance a revival. They took the show into syndication, sold directly to local television stations around the world, and it exploded in a way no one, including Hasselhoff himself, fully anticipated. By the mid-1990s, Baywatch was broadcast in 148 countries and watched by an estimated 1 billion people every week. That cancellation nearly erased one of television's biggest phenomena before it ever truly began. It remains one of the most remarkable second acts in television history.
Laurie, no, I'm not going in there.
You said you'd help me bury it.
Well, I think we should see you.
Detail 24. The show's first season was shot without a female writer in the room. For a show whose entire cultural identity rested on its female cast, it's a striking fact that the original writing staff of Baywatch was almost entirely male. The stories, dialogue, and character decisions for the women of the show were being written and shaped almost exclusively by men. It wasn't until the syndication era, when the show was rebuilt from the ground up after its NBC cancellation, that women began joining the writing staff in meaningful numbers. Several of the show's later writers and producers have pointed to this shift as a reason the female characters in the post-1991 seasons felt more developed and less one-dimensional than in the original run. The show that became a symbol of a certain kind of female visibility had, in its earliest form, almost no female creative voices behind it.
Years next month.
2 years? I've never made it that long. You know, it seems like until then you don't have to really...
Detail 23. Pamela Anderson almost didn't take the role. Pamela Anderson's arrival as C.J. Parker in 1992 transformed the show's cultural profile almost overnight. But Anderson was initially hesitant. She was already appearing on Home Improvement at the time and was uncertain about committing to another series. The producers pursued her persistently, and she eventually agreed to join, initially for a limited run. Her chemistry with the show and the audience response made the role permanent. C.J. Parker became arguably the most iconic character in Baywatch's history, and the casting decision that almost didn't happen defined the show's entire second era. Detail 22. The slow-motion running sequences were purely practical. The slow-motion beach runs are the most parodied element of Baywatch, but they weren't originally designed as a stylistic flourish. The show's producers needed to fill a 44-minute episode, but didn't always have enough scripted content. Slowing down footage of the cast running along the beach was a cost-effective way to pad the running time while showcasing the cast to maximum effect. The sequences were filmed at normal speed and slowed in post-production. What started as a budget solution became the show's most imitated signature and one of the most immediately recognizable images in the history of television.
Ben's got more experience on this beach than all the lifeguards put together. He saved 5 people the day the pier collapsed.
Detail 21. David Hasselhoff negotiated creative control. When David Hasselhoff helped bring Baywatch back from cancellation, he didn't just invest money, he negotiated a significant degree of creative control over the show's direction. This was unusual for a television actor at the time. Hasselhoff had a strong vision for the show as something that combined action and rescue drama with aspirational, family-friendly storytelling. His involvement in storyline decisions and casting choices shaped the show far more than most viewers realized. Baywatch was not just a vehicle Hasselhoff starred in, he was, in many respects, one of its architects.
Intertubes are against the rules, sir! I can't hear you, honey! Oh,
Detail 20. The lifeguard rescues were technically supervised. Despite being dismissed by critics as pure entertainment, Baywatch's rescue sequences were developed with input from real Los Angeles County lifeguards. The show had a working relationship with the LA County Department of Beaches and Harbors, and technical advisors on set helped ensure that the rescue procedures shown on screen were broadly consistent with real lifeguarding methods, including the proper way to approach a distressed swimmer, how to use rescue equipment, and the positioning of a rescuer relative to a victim in open water. Junior lifeguard programs around the United States later reported that young people who watched Baywatch arrived at training with a basic awareness of water rescue concepts they had absorbed from the show, an unintended public safety benefit that no one in the production office had planned for, but which became one of the more quietly meaningful side effects of the show's global reach.
Ellie, get out of here! I don't know what to do!
it's okay! No, get out!
Detail 19. The U.S. government recognized Baywatch as a soft power asset. This one surprises almost everyone. During the height of Baywatch's international reach in the mid-1990s, officials within the U.S. State Department informally acknowledged that the show was functioning as a form of cultural diplomacy, broadcasting an image of American life, American beaches, and American values into countries where formal diplomatic messaging had limited penetration. The show reached markets in Eastern Europe, the Middle East, and parts of Asia where American television was rare, and where the image of California as a sunlit, prosperous, free society carried significant weight. No one in the Baywatch production office was thinking about geopolitics, but the people whose job it was to think about geopolitics were paying attention to what that show was doing in those markets.
This is Ellaby. Clear all channels. I need emergency light.
Detail 18. The show directly influenced Australian lifeguarding culture. One of the less discussed ripple effects of Baywatch's global reach was its measurable impact on how other countries developed and promoted their own lifeguarding traditions. In Australia, where surf lifesaving has a long and serious cultural history predating Baywatch by many decades, tourism boards and lifeguarding organizations in the 1990s began documenting a surge in international visitors who cited Baywatch as part of their image of beach culture. More concretely, the number of young Australians enrolling in junior surf lifesaving programs increased during the peak Baywatch years, with some club coordinators at the time pointing directly to the show's popularity. A program that was never designed to promote anything beyond its own ratings had, entirely by accident, become a recruitment tool for real water safety organizations on the other side of the world.
Swimmer's ready.
Deploy swimmer.
Roger.
Detail 17. Hasselhoff was a bigger star in Germany than in America. During the height of Baywatch's global popularity, David Hasselhoff's celebrity in Germany genuinely exceeded his fame in his home country. His music career, largely ignored by American audiences, was enormously successful in Europe. Songs like Looking for Freedom reached #1 in Germany and Austria and became genuine pop hits, not novelties. His connection to Germany went beyond music. His performance at the Berlin Wall on New Year's Eve 1989, singing to a crowd of hundreds of thousands at the Brandenburg Gate on the night the wall came down, made him part of one of the 20th century's most emotionally charged moments in European history. German audiences watched Baywatch with a particular enthusiasm for its star that American viewers, who tended to regard Hasselhoff with more irony, didn't quite share. In Germany, the man running along the beach in a red swimsuit was, without exaggeration, a cultural hero. Detail 16, the theme song was not the original music. The theme song most people associate with Baywatch, I'm Always Here, performed by Jimmy Jamison, was not used in the show's original 1989 NBC season. The first season had a different musical opening bearing little resemblance to what would become the show's globally recognized sound. When the show was revived in syndication in 1991, the production team commissioned entirely new music, and Jimmy Jamison's recording became the version that ran for the bulk of the show's run and became permanently embedded in popular culture. Jamison, formerly the lead vocalist of the band Survivor, brought warmth and energy that fit the show's tone perfectly. Most people who think they remember the show from the very beginning are actually remembering the syndication-era version, the one that turned a piece of television music into something that could evoke an entire decade with a single opening note. Detail 15. Nicole Eggert made serious public allegations against a co-star years later. Nicole Eggert, who played Summer Quinn from 1992 to 1994, left the show and largely moved out of the public eye afterward. In 2018, she came forward publicly with allegations against Scott Baio, her co-star from her earlier role on Charles in Charge, stating that Baio had behaved inappropriately toward her beginning when she was a teenager. Baio denied the allegations. The timeline Eggert described placed the beginning of the conduct years before her Baywatch casting, but the public conversation it opened touched on the broader culture of the entertainment industry during the period when she was working in television. Her Baywatch years, which appeared at the time to be a straightforward career move, were part of a decade in that industry that many performers would later describe very differently from how it looked from the outside. Detail 14. The Baywatch Nights spin-off was a completely different genre. In 1995, a spin-off series called Baywatch Nights was launched, starring David Hasselhoff as Mitch Buchanan, working as a private detective by night. The first season leaned into standard detective drama, but in its second and final season, Baywatch Nights made one of the most unexpected pivots in television spin-off history. It became a supernatural thriller, openly inspired by The X-Files, with Mitch investigating paranormal phenomena. The tonal whiplash between the parent show and this spin-off was so extreme that it became something of a minor legend among people who followed television oddities. It was canceled after 2 seasons.
Look, Taryn, I have no intention of going back to Hawaii or getting back together with you. I'm sorry, but it's time to...
Detail 13. Carmen Electra was cast, based on a recommendation by Prince. Carmen Electra's path to Baywatch was one of the more unusual casting stories in the show's history. Born Tara Lee Patrick in Ohio, she moved to Minneapolis in her early 20s, hoping to break into entertainment. It was there that Prince saw her performing in a club, signed her to Paisley Park Records, gave her a new professional name, and produced her debut album. The 1993 album wasn't a commercial success, but the association with Prince made Elektra a known figure in entertainment circles. When she was cast in Baywatch in 1997 as Lonnie McKenzie, she arrived already famous, unusual for someone joining an ensemble in its 9th season. It was an unlikely route to one of the most watched shows on Earth, and it began with a chance encounter in a Minneapolis club.
Ah, seems like you could use a cup of coffee.
No, I don't drink coffee, thanks.
So the governor is giving a speech at the
Detail 12, the show that helped launch several careers that had nothing to do with acting. Baywatch's massive international audience created publicity opportunities that extended well beyond the cast's acting careers. Several cast members leveraged their Baywatch visibility to build careers in modeling, music, and business ventures in international markets, particularly in Europe and South America, where the show's reach was so extensive that its stars were genuine celebrities. The show functioned, for several of its cast members, less as an acting job and more as a global platform that could be converted into other professional opportunities. The concept of using a television show as a launching pad for a multi-industry personal brand was not common in the early 1990s, but Baywatch accidentally pioneered it.
What are you doing here?
I'm getting married.
Detail 11. Yasmin Bleeth spoke candidly about what fame did to her. Yasmin Bleeth joined Baywatch in 1993 as Caroline Holden and, by the mid-1990s, had appeared on the cover of People magazine and been named one of the most beautiful people in the world by the same publication. From the outside, it looked like the definition of a career on the rise. What was happening behind that image was something quite different. After leaving Baywatch in 1997, Bleeth struggled with substance dependency, something she later discussed publicly and in significant detail in interviews, including an appearance on the television program Celebrity Justice. She described how the pressures of sudden and extreme celebrity during her Baywatch years contributed to the choices she made afterward. In 2001, she pleaded no contest to a drug-related charge following a car accident in Michigan. She later completed a rehabilitation program and has spoken openly about her recovery. Her story became one of the more candid public accounts of what the particular kind of fame that Baywatch generated could actually cost the people it was built on.
Exaggerate about measurements.
Hey, Cody, you think she's trying to tell us something?
Oh my God.
Detail 10, the production schedule was relentless. Each season of Baywatch and its syndication, Prime produced 44 episodes, a number that sounds extraordinary by modern television standards, where prestige dramas often produce 8 to 12 episodes per season. To maintain that output, the Baywatch production team filmed essentially year-round in the Southern California sun. Cast members have described the filming schedule as physically exhausting, with long days on the beach in direct sunlight, water sequences that required repeated takes, and a pace that left little room for recovery between filming blocks. The physical toll of repeated ocean swimming, sun exposure, and the sheer stamina required to maintain the show's relentless output went largely unacknowledged in the entertainment press of the era, which focused on the glamour of the setting rather than the reality of producing television at that pace. Several cast members have spoken in retrospect about how grueling the schedule actually was, a reality that stood in stark contrast to the effortless, sun-drenched world shown on screen. The beach looked like paradise. Getting there was very hard work.
Get the Avalon.
No worries, the ferry stops near Sydney Harbor seaplanes. They can run him up.
Not bad, huh?
Detail 9. International versions of the show were produced. Baywatch's global popularity eventually spawned international adaptations that most American viewers never knew existed. A German version, a French version, and discussions around other regional adaptations emerged as the show's format was recognized as replicable in different coastal settings. These international versions attempted to capture the formula of the original: attractive cast, rescue drama, warm weather, but transplanted to local settings and languages. None of them achieved anything close to the original's reach, but their existence underscores how thoroughly Baywatch had, by the mid-1990s, become a genuine global entertainment template rather than simply an American television show.
He cut Jamie's air hose. What? How deep is he?
About 100 feet.
He's got about a minute and a half till he suffocates.
Detail 8. The show had a serious environmental subplot. Baywatch incorporated genuine environmental storylines about ocean pollution, marine conservation, and the protection of Southern California's coastal ecosystem. These were not incidental. David Hasselhoff and several of the show's producers were personally committed to environmental messaging and used the show's enormous platform to raise awareness about issues affecting the Pacific coastline. Episodes addressed oil spills, plastic waste, illegal coastal dumping, and the impact of development on beach ecosystems. The producers understood that a program watched in 148 countries had an unusual opportunity to put conservation messaging in front of audiences who might never encounter it elsewhere. Environmental organizations occasionally provided technical consultation. For a show often dismissed as pure escapism, its environmental conscience was consistent, and it was reaching an audience that dwarfed what any dedicated nature documentary could claim.
You know, I knew the video idea would work. I'm so happy for you.
Yeah, I thought it was brilliant.
Detail 7. Gina Lee Nolan almost didn't survive her first season. Gina Lee Nolan joined Baywatch in 1995 as Neely Capshaw and later as Tiffany Wells, and her time on the show was complicated almost from the start. She was involved in a serious car accident during her time in the cast that left her with injuries requiring recovery time. The production schedule was adjusted to accommodate her, but the incident highlighted the physical vulnerability that came with the show's relentless pace. Nolan has spoken in interviews about health challenges that she has traced back to this period of her life, giving a more complex texture to her years in what appeared to viewers as an idyllic beach setting.
Can I get a close-up of this?
Detail 6. Baywatch indirectly helped modernize real emergency response communication. One of the least known practical legacies of Baywatch's relationship with the Los Angeles County lifeguarding system involves emergency communication. During the show's production in the early 1990s, the Baywatch team worked closely with LA County lifeguards on location, and this daily proximity between Hollywood production and a real emergency service created an unusual feedback loop. Producers observed real lifeguards dealing with the limitations of radio communication in noisy, chaotic beach environments, and some of the practical solutions developed informally on the Baywatch set, around filming logistics and cast coordination across long stretches of beach, fed into broader discussions about how lifeguard stations communicated with each other during real emergencies. It's a quiet, unglamorous detail, but it means that the show most famous for making lifeguarding look effortless may have contributed in a small way to making real lifeguarding more effective.
I'll never forget the '84 Olympics when you won all those medals. You were amazing.
Well, thank you.
Detail 5. Alexandra Paul was a committed activist. Alexandra Paul, who played Lieutenant Stephanie Holden from 1992 to 1997, was unusual among the Baywatch cast for the degree to which her off-screen life diverged from the show's glossy image. Paul was, and remains, a committed environmental and political activist, an outspoken advocate for population issues, and an accomplished endurance athlete. She was arrested multiple times during her Baywatch years for acts of civil disobedience related to causes she supported. The contrast between her public image as a Baywatch lifeguard and her private life as a political activist was rarely discussed in the entertainment press of the era, which preferred to keep the show's image uncomplicated.
Okay, I've tried horning in on one of his deals before, bro. Never again.
Use your head, Zach. What do you think's gonna happen?
Detail 4. The final season moved to Hawaii. After 10 seasons in Southern California, Baywatch relocated to Hawaii for its final season in 1999, rebranding as Baywatch Hawaii. The move was an attempt to refresh the format with a new setting while retaining the core cast. Hawaii allowed for more dramatic ocean scenery, different water conditions, and new storylines connected to Hawaiian culture and geography. The relocation worked well enough that Baywatch Hawaii ran for 2 full seasons, 2000 and 2001, before the series concluded. Many viewers who watched Baywatch Hawaii without prior exposure to the original found it to be a distinctly different show and feel, even though the format was essentially the same.
Okay, hold on. I'm gonna open my shoe.
Detail 3. The show's ratings were never accurately measured. The claim that Baywatch was watched by 1 billion people per week, a figure repeated so often it became accepted fact, has never been independently verified by a recognized television ratings organization. The figure originated from the show's own production company and was based on estimates of the total potential audience across all the countries that broadcast the show, not an actual count of people watching at any given time. The real viewership was almost certainly enormous, but the specific number that entered pop culture history was, at best, an optimistic projection. It's a small irony that the world's most watched show may never have been accurately watched at all, numerically speaking. Detail 2. Michael Newman, the real lifeguard, played himself. One of Baywatch's most enduring cast members was not a professional actor at all. Michael Newman was a real Los Angeles County lifeguard who appeared on the show as himself, playing a character named Michael Newman from the first season through most of the show's run. Newman became one of the show's most recognized supporting presences, and his real-world lifeguarding credentials gave his scenes an authenticity that the trained actors around him couldn't quite replicate. He had saved over 500 lives as a real lifeguard before the show began. During the years he appeared on Baywatch, he continued working as an actual lifeguard, meaning he was simultaneously a fictional television character and a real emergency responder. Newman spoke frequently in interviews about the importance of water safety education, and his visibility on the show gave him a platform to promote real lifeguarding training to an audience that stretched across the globe. He received a real-life commendation from the city of Los Angeles during his time on the series. In a show filled with actors playing lifeguards, he was the only person on the beach who had actually done it for real, for years, before a camera ever rolled.
Connor, I see something. What?
Detail 1. The show was considered lowbrow, while becoming a cultural monument. Throughout its run and for years afterward, Baywatch was treated by critics as the definition of lowbrow entertainment. Formulaic, superficial, and beneath serious attention. Awards bodies ignored it. Serious television critics rarely spent column inches on it, except to use it as a shorthand for everything that was considered mindless about popular entertainment. And yet, by any objective measure, Baywatch achieved something the overwhelming majority of critically praised shows never did. It became genuinely global, crossing language barriers and generational divides to reach audiences on every inhabited continent. It shaped how people around the world pictured California, influenced beachwear and markets from Brazil to Japan, and made lifeguarding a recognizable profession to people who had never lived near an ocean. The show critics dismissed as empty beach television quietly became one of the most culturally distributed pieces of American entertainment in history. A detail that tends to get lost in a decade's worth of condescension, but which the numbers and the memories of a generation make very hard to argue with. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to our channel so you never miss out on more history documentaries.